All right, welcome back, players and coaches. Today we're joined by Coach Peter Gaskill. Coach Gaskill, going back to his high school days, grew up in Iowa. He attended Cedar Rapids, LaSalle, and then moved on to Coe College. After he graduated and finished his playing career at Coe, he was assistant coach at Oak Park in Kansas City, and then took over 2 years later at Staley High before moving on to Rockhurst in NCAA Division II in Kansas City. And following that, he then started Genesis and was the director of basketball operations in the Kansas City metro area, and has since moved to Toronto, relocated with his wife and family, and is helping as a special advisor to a tech company that does some stuff with some sports performance, and is also an assistant coach at the
Redeemer.
Redeemer. Can't read my own handwriting. Redeemer University, which is in Ancaster, Ontario, about 40 minutes from downtown Toronto. So thank you, Pete, for making the time and joining us here late tonight. So getting right into it, we've been talking a little bit before, so let's start talking some shooting. What's a good shooting warm-up? How do you prefer for players to warm up in your experience, obviously across many levels, working with high school, all ages with Genesis, and then collegiately in the United States and now over in Canada?
Well, the first thing I always like to do is start close. Just, you have with other people the form shooting, but I want to start a little closer and really work on the wrist snap. 95% of all shots finish like this, whether you're doing a runner, whether you're doing a Mike and type reverse layup, you're going to have some sort of wrist snap. So I want to work on just getting your wrist snap, kind of getting the flexibility in your wrist, but also getting your hands ready. I think the hands shooting is one of those things that there are parts that are over taught, that get over detailed, and then there's parts that are under taught. And I think the hands are one of them. Hands are so important. I know I've heard in DA talk about this, more control, more cover more of the ball, control more of the ball. And that's very true. Another part though I get into it more with is really getting your hands spread, but also making sure you have, now depending on the player, either your peace sign or a little bit more of your index finger in the middle, wherever that middle point of that player's hands is, because that's the last part that's going to touch the ball. So really making sure you got that peace sign up so you have it set, so no matter where you catch that ball, it's going to come right to where you want to be centered and where you want that ball to come off of. So we do a lot in the beginning with that, just grooving the shot, getting your extension, but really focusing on that wrist snap and focusing on your hands. And then we move out from there into into some form shooting. And then depending on what we're doing, what I call progressive shooting, which is the same, it's form shooting, but we take it all the way out 3-point line to work, again, working on your hands, getting your feet set, and so forth. So that would be, I always open all workouts, no matter if it's one of the college guys, some of the pros from when we were at Rockhurst that would come back in, that was playing overseas. We always do wrist snaps to start with, just to get your shot rolling.
And now when they're doing that, are they jumping or
No.
Is it set shot? Okay, so set shot, and then are they going for a number of makes, a number of swishes, or?
We go, a lot of it's feel. They'll start with B5, some B6, depending on how they're doing it, how their shot is looking, if they need a little bit more work in grooving their shot, because that's really what this is about. Whether it's the wrist snap or as you move back, it's grooving it, getting that rhythm, getting that one motion, if you will, where you get to that set spot and then one motion. Not, so if you notice a hitch or something's not feeling right, you groove it out and get your feel.
And now, how much of the dipping of the ball, bringing it down, do you get concerned with that, or are you more natural motion? Yeah, natural motion.
I mean, that's one of the things that some guys get we're not going to let a guy dip. What does it matter? That's the rhythm part. It's part of the rhythm. Shooting is, I've always thought shooting is more of, it's a feel. And if someone has part of that feel, part of that rhythm comes from, obviously not going down to their knees with the dip, but just a little bit of a dip,
Mm-hmm.
that's not going to affect whether or not they're going to get their shot off.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, I agree 100%. Ray Allen, I remember when he hit that back out three, he caught it and dipped it. That still had time, and there was how much time left on that kick out, and game was at 6.
Exactly. It's just, it's part of that. It's part of their rhythm. I don't think it's, there are other parts I think I'd rather worry about than whether or not they dip it.
Okay, and now is feet and footwork part of what you're concerned with? You talked about the wrist snap.
Yes, the feet. Everything starts with the feet.
Okay, so what do you got, in terms of philosophy, or how do you teach it?
Well, I've always, kind of like with you, where we met Snow Valley, being around guys like Herb Livesey, the 1-2 step. I mean, it's all, I've always been and built with step with that inside foot, and then really focusing on, making sure you keep that weight on your shooting foot to balance you, to get you centered to the rim. Focus on getting the weight on your shooting foot and then getting your balance from there. But also, given game situations, you're not always going to have that inside pivot foot. Sometimes you may have to do a right left or a left right, depending on the situation. But I also believe in also a permanent foot on a kick out, because there's some guys that when they step in, they always want to step in with that right foot. So when there's situations, and how I would teach it is, if you can control the situation, i.e. like a kick out, get your feet how you want them. If you want to step in always with your right, step in, have that left foot up, have your right foot back, step into it. Because that you can control that situation. You can't always control it off a cut, but you can control it off those situations. But also at the same time, if a good shooter comes to me and they feel comfortable with the hop, then we're going to do the hop. I mean, it doesn't. There are parts of, I guess, when I have non-negotiables, I don't know if it's a non-negotiable, but they're keys, like feet, hands, elbow up above your eyes, follow through. But some of those are customizable to the player. Like whether it's the hop, whether it's your 1-2 step, if that's what they feel good, because again, it's a rhythm. It's a rhythm that you get from shooting, and a lot of it comes from your feet. I don't care whatever it is you do, you like, that's fine. What I care about is you get perfect feet, perfect balance. Yeah. Perfect feet with your weight on your shooting foot.
Gotcha. And now, so here would be my question is, if I'm a parent and maybe through all this COVID, my son, my 4th or 5th grade son or daughter, is really into hoops. And obviously in the United States, summer camps aren't really happening. And I'm looking, how would you recommend, if I'm starting with a beginner and novice, they don't even know what footwork is. And but they've shown some interest. Like they've played some rec, like they're an experience. This isn't the very first time touching a basketball, but we just kind of want to get some general things. How would you teach footwork to a novice in your opinion? Obviously there's a lot of different ways to do it.
I would first start with getting in their stance. Get your shooting foot slightly ahead. Practice, get that feel of your weight, and then just shoot from that position at first. Then have them step into it. Get that right foot back, step into it. We're not shooting yet there, but I want to get that feel what that position looks like. Come back, step into it. Come back, step into it. And then from there, you get right, step into it, one motion. Come back, step into it, one motion. That's all 3 feet away. That's all 3 feet away. And this is when you see how much they really like playing and want to be a good shooter, because this is the boring part. When you're doing this for 30 minutes, because you got to get your feet right. You got to get that balance. That's so important. Perfect feet equals perfect balance equals perfect shots.
Yeah.
Coach Libsey always said jump shots are made with your legs and your feet. And there's so much truth to that. I could tell guys that I've been working with for a long time, before they even shoot, I'm watching their feet. I know, unless something's really jacked up with their hands, that shot's going to go away. And you can tell because they have the balance. Jump shots are made with your legs and your feet.
So if I'm struggling with my balance, how do you fix that? Because there's been players that I've coached before that when they jump, they twist or they land uneven like a boom boom instead of a take off on two, land on two. How do you solve that problem?
Well, I don't always worry about if they land 1-2, or what I worry about is I'm looking at where is their balance on the catch and on the shot, because you can tell a lot of guys that, all right, especially if it's a right-hander, they're coming in and they're cutting and they step left, right, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell when a lot of times they're missing to the left because they don't get their weight off their left foot. They keep it on they don't get it to their right foot, to their shooting foot to help balance them out. So I look at more, where's your weight and where's your balance on the catch? And then we break it down from there.
So because that's interesting, because especially this is late, and I had a player that I did it with last year that we worked a lot on landing on the balls of their feet, because they would catch balance, but then their jump would be off. They'd lose their balance in the jump and it was affecting their shot negatively, was kind of what we worked on. But I'm very curious if going back and I'll have to watch it and see if it was part of that, maybe catching, maybe having that not transfer in the weight.
Well, also, then I also stress, again, this is something I'll do with better players, is I'll step heel toe.
Mm-hmm.
So land on your heels. Okay, so I'm landing on my heels. I really make sure I step hard on my heel and rock to my toes to help you get balance on that. So you end up really getting your flat foot, but then as you're moving, you're rotating your weight to the balls of your feet, but you're doing it in a more controlled way.
Yep.
Plus, when you do that, when you land, when you start stepping like this, that's also eliminates your rolled ankles too.
Got you. All right, cool. So getting back to the warm up, so we did we grooved it, and then so we've moved all the way out to 3. We've made our however many to get it. We're feeling good.
Now when we do, but there's a reason why we do. I'll have them go out to 3 though too. And I've had some players go to NBA 3s. It's not. This is when you really work on your balance and then your hands, because I'll let them stop with their hands here, but then they drop it. They got to go one-handed. And you really focus. This is when you see, are they getting a lot of ball coverage, or are they really getting their hands wide? When I teach it that they have to show me their hands with their peace sign up, almost like a catcher, like a catcher's mitt. That forearm's behind them, kind of ready to go. So all they have to do is go up, and then the other part then is the feet. On when you do that, it tests their balance. Joel, I will. I would videotape this. I mean, you'll have college guys. They get out to the NBA to a college 3-point line, and all of a sudden, you get them in a shooting position like this, and they're like, it's like they're on a plank, and they about ready to fall off a ledge. They just all of a sudden they just lose their balance like this, and it's just like, guys, calm down. Just get to your balance. Perfect feet. Just get your perfect feet, and then once they master that and they figure out their hands and get their hands right, then everything is just kind of grows from there. This is something I'll do with a lot of guys at first to see their hands and feet, and then also to help if they're really going through some struggles. We'll use that to groove their shot.
Okay. So then so I get done with that, then we'll say that you're working with a guard or somebody that's the point of this workout, if me and you are in the gym, is I want to work on my shooting. So we warmed up with the form shooting. I'm coming to you. You're going to help me work on my shot. What are we doing next?
Then we're going to go into what I call ready shooting. Just like a kick out, like you're relocating, kicking out, get your right foot back. If you're a right-hander, your shooting foot back. And then I always teach, and again, I got this from Coach Livesey, is a little pitter-patter. A little pitter-patter on your feet. Not a foot fire, but something that if it's a bad pass, you can adjust and you still have your balance and you still have perfect feet. Another way I look at it is if you ever watch Peyton Manning when he was playing, he did this all the time. He would drop back and his feet were firing no matter where. So no matter where he turned, he always had perfect feet and perfect balance. So I have him go about 15 feet, little pitter patter, step, boom, step, one motion. And we'll go around the horn, have them make 2 or 3 each spot, get 6 spots. And then as they're shooting it well, then we'll progress out into another, not 3s yet. And then about 3rd round, we can, if they're shooting it well they're getting their rhythm, then we'll go out to 3s. But again, it's all about getting to this spot, perfect feet, and then one motion.
Yep, and really just being intentional, and as you're moving, just kind of changing one thing at a time. Because you started with, okay, I'm going to catch, I'm in here, and I'm working on the snap of the wrist. Then I like that, just that slow progression, because shooting is, as you've mentioned a couple of times, very repeatable, and it needs to be the same. It needs to be grooved.
It's a feel. Listen, it's one thing you can see when you're doing this is if the guys are tense. And if they are, I'll stop them, like just jump up and down. Loosen your arms out, feel it. And I tell them, listen, I'm not a hippie. I'm not a touchy-feely guy, but you just got to take a deep breath. Let it come to you, relax, okay? And just feel, and just go. And just go with it.
You've been watching too many Pac-12 games with Bill Walton on the call, man.
The best in the business.
Absolutely, part of the best part of living on the West Coast, man. Okay, so then after that, so now at this point, my shot's pretty grooved, and now how are you going to work on coming off the bounce?
Okay, so what we'll do first,
or I should say, what's next in your opinion?
What we do first then is I will do call it insteps, where they get their feet wide. A little past shoulder width. We do a little ball handling, whether it's a inside out cross, whatever it is. And then I get them then they get to about 12 feet. And then this is when we work on a little bit of a hop into it, because you want guys when they're to be able to, again, you teach different ways to get them comfortable going different ways. Boom, quick hop into your shot. And again, we emphasize though, the same footwork, the same balance, the same feet. And then it's just a different way to get into it. Some guys, they still want to go into the 1-2. That's fine. We have them going 1-2. But with some of I would say like better high school players, I'll have them work out quick hop, because again, not everything's going to be the perfect situation where defense is going to let them do whatever they want to do, or they're not always going to be able to get that step off their inside foot that they feel comfortable with. Sometimes you're going to have to do a quick hop and go up. So again, just getting them to get used to that feeling. But we'll do that off a pull up. Actually, and with some younger guys too, before we even do that though, I'll do a pound into your shot. I'll have them step back, boom, really get that pound dribble. Again, big hands. So you get that ball how you want it in your hands, right off the catch, off the dribble, boom, pound into your shot, and then go right into it. So they can simulate, one, how does that body feel as they're going into a pull-up? And two, really to pound it. A lot of young players, they don't dribble hard enough. And so getting that hard dribble into that shot to show how you, boom, pound it right into it, and you go right into your shot.
Yeah, no, I forget who it was a couple of years ago. Somebody was working on that specifically, of the last dribble into a pull-up, talking about how that one, even if you dribble soft, that's the one that gets in rhythm, gets your hands wide. And that you talking about that really made me think of it. So then after we get done doing that, how are we going to work on our three-point shot? What's your philosophy on that?
I think you do it different. You do it based on ways you're going to get into a game. I think you always have kickouts. You always have relocations. So you're ready for those if you're a guard. And then it depends on what kind of actions they do. And then I'll create different drills based on the type of actions that where they're going to get their shots off. Whether it's, okay, I come off baseline screens. So we'll work on, cutting from underneath the basket out into to the corner, or out working on their catch and shoot footwork off a down screen or away screens, or if it's coming off a ball screen, whatever it is, or if they get a lot off different relocation actions, flares. What we spend most of our time with first is based on what where do they get their shots? And then first walking through the footwork to make sure that they get the footwork right. So we'll probably do 5 reps at least, getting to whatever that spot is, working on their footwork, getting their balance, and then we add the ball.
Got you. And so you mentioned pick and roll or ball screen, as you called it. So because I think this is, especially in the States, and anymore, just in basketball in general, pick and roll is such a big
really
play.
Too, up here, because of the 24-second clock and a lot of
I'm jealous of that.
International basketball, there's a lot more fluidity, a lot more movement, you have more 5 out, some 4 round 1. There's a lot more free movement, and really up here, I think the premium really has to be on not just your foot speed, but the footwork into the play to get ready for the next play. So
a perfect little segue. So pick and roll series, because I think for players, how do I work on what would be a pick and roll progression? Because you were just mentioning you go through. So let's say my system is a pick and roll. I'm thinking 20 or something where I get side pick and rolls, or even a top pick and roll. What would a series like that? What would I work on? What does that look like?
Well, first we're gonna simulate defense going under. So first, just dribble it. So we're working on our footwork into our shot. You need to really work on that pass too. So coming off, hit the roller, relocate quick, either to the wing or to the corner or top of the key, whichever ones you want to work on that day. And again, the same thing. Next one would be coming off that again, kick it out, and then relocate. And then from there, and then you also work on your pull up. Gotcha. And then the other part, I would add one more though too. I would also add the runner or floater. Work. You've got to have, especially if you're a guard, and not to the dotted line. I'm talking that 12 foot to 8 foot range. You've got to have a variety of different releases and release points. And you've got to work on that. You've got to practice that. And again, it comes back to that wrist snap and then extending that elbow above your eyes. The same things we talk about in your shot. It's the same thing. It's just in a different situation. And so
teaching points for runners and floaters, you kind of mentioned those. Do you do a quick hop or a pop stop, or is it based on what that player wants?
I do both in a runner.
Gotcha.
Foot. You have to have a variety. You got to give them a variety. You got to give them a tool, and then they find the tools that they like best. If that makes sense. Give them a variety.
Yeah, for sure.
When you do that, there's still the consistencies with your jump shot. Again, it's all the same motion, all the same action, and you're just now how you get to that point is going to be a little bit different. But you try to keep it as consistent as possible.
For sure. I like that. And then what do you think? So moving into, I worked on pick and roll. What are some drills that you like for competitive shooting, or ways that, what are kind of your staple drills that you probably do these pretty frequently? Players are either going for a score, or what are some of those staple drills that you have in your workouts? Because I find I have mine that I use with guys, and talking to different guys through this. I'm kind of figuring out, everybody's kind of got their bread and butter. What are some of your bread and butter drills that you think are good for skill development within the system and players you're working with? Because obviously that varies a little bit.
My go-to is one thing we call 1-2 step, where let's say you got a group of guys. Let's say it's got a group of 3, 4, or women, whatever it is. And you can go to different, however many spots, but let's say we start on the wing. Okay. Person start, there's a shooter out there, the line's underneath the basket, one person with the ball stands somewhere between the lane and the rim line. Okay. And then they throw it out and they go out there and they're trying to block that guy's shot. They're trying to send that ball wherever, get a piece of it, whatever. They block it, they get 5 points. And even if the guy does a pump fake, they get 5 points. And then otherwise, then you got to catch and shoot it. So what I love about that is it's competitive, but then you're also really working on getting all of your shot in, before, within that realistic and concentrating and focusing, even while you got someone's hand coming right at you, they're jumping as high as they can. Even if they know they can't get to it, they're trying to, block your vision, and you still got to be able to knock down that shot.
Gotcha. And before we move on, what's your philosophy on where do you try to, if I don't know when you're teaching shooting, where do you teach guys to look at, or girls?
The rim. I think more just sometimes back of the rim, front of the rim. Most of it's just the middle of the hoop, to be honest.
Gotcha.
Really, with some of the stuff I've been working on now, it's really been more of I want them to be able to locate the rim quick, because you're not always going to have full sight of it. So it's more about working on focusing on, okay, there's my target, lock, and being able to lock into it with all the other stuff going on. So being able to lock it in quick and identify your target, identify the arm strength you need, and so forth. Because that's the other part is I believe in teaching with the arm. Strength in your shot comes from your arm. That's where most of your power comes from. Now, I think that helps guys increase their range and increase their accuracy, because most of the time that arm speed is going to be the same. Now, you're going to play with it a little bit, because if you're on a pull-up and you're elevating, whenever you elevate, you start your shot a little bit higher. Obviously, you're going to take a little bit off of it. There's the gauge with it, but I have always believed in really the last couple of years that most of your strength comes from your arm on your shot. And so no, go ahead.
Go ahead. I want you to further explain that, because that's the first time I've heard that term, and I'm just trying to understand. So when you say arm shooting, does that mean I'm going more with my elbows straight up as opposed to here, more in front? Or when you say get all your strength, because I think I understand what you're trying to say. Can you explain just a little bit more?
Most of the power from your shot, I believe, should come from your arm. So you use your legs part of the rhythm and you get some power from it, but most of it comes from your arm strength. Mm-hmm. I think that's when you get more accuracy and you also get more range. You really need to emphasize getting your elbow above your eyes and getting that extension and follow through. But I think a lot of your guys, a couple of years ago, this guy I was working with, he was playing some G League ball, and he was telling me about, how he just started he didn't tell me the name of the coach, but started working with them, shooting with their arm. And I started playing around with it a little bit, started to really study it, the more it made sense. Because then it helps you really with a lot of your accuracy and then your range going out and being able to maintain your shot integrity and not heaving it, because you have your balance, you have your base, and then you have that arm strength to be able to get the ball where you need it to be. Now, I'm not talking about going out the half court stuff, but what I'm talking about is, at a comfortable range, but at the same time, it gives you that power and accuracy.
Okay, so what am I lining up with? Because I'm thinking old school. If I'm shooting, I have my elbow to the rim straight. I've got my hands tucked in. Is this more of the turn here like that to shoot, or because I'm trying to just figure out what your line is? Because there's the hip, elbow, wrist, and then but there's one more turn, or it's 10 toes to the rim.
That's up to the player. Again, that's up to the player. I prefer a little bit of a turn. I work with guys that have 10 toes. That's got to be from them. That's got to be their comfort level. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is, here's an example. One thing that we use to work on this is free throw threes. Shoot a three-pointer like a free throw. You may end up on your toes, but you're getting most of your power from your arms. And that helps groove your shot, helps get your distance control. This really, I think probably the biggest benefit is that distance control, because you're going to have times in the game when you got to go out and do a full elevate on a pull-up or a three-pointer. You can't control the power from that. I mean, if I got to go really big, or I've got my momentum going into a cut, how many times have you seen a guy just, brick it hard off that backboard because they can't control that? You can control this. You can control this. So in other words, if I'm comfortable, I may have a little bit of a hop, but I'm getting most of my power from my arm. If I'm in that situation where I'm making a hard cut or I'm busting on a fast break, I'm sinking my hips and I'm getting up more of that elevation, more of that power and momentum from my body. Now I just mess with my arm. I start the shot a little bit higher, keep my full extension and wrist snap, but now I'm able to control the distance more. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, thank you. Like I said, I'd never heard of that. And it just listening to it, we definitely look into it. Cause like I said, that's just something different. And that's part of the objective of doing this. Cause I think we've talked a little bit, everybody's shots obviously a little bit different. And I think philosophically we're pretty similar in terms of we got to demand a couple things, but a lot of it's a lot of freedom and what feels best for each player, assuming they know. So I guess that goes right into the next question is how do players make the jump? You've worked at the high school, college, and then worked with younger players doing some of the Genesis stuff, older players in a variety. How does a player make that jump to whatever their next level is? That could be an 8th grader coming in as a freshman, maybe hoping to swing JV, or a guy that was on freshman that maybe hit a little growth spurt and he's trying to get varsity, or a freshman in college who got limited tick, or a guy coming off a red shirt. When players make a big jump or a jump in their game, how do they do that?
Well, one, I think there's a few different facets to it. One is you got to have your commitment to your body, meaning are you putting in the work in the weight room? Are you doing the strength and conditioning work, the athletic development? You've got to have, even this, even the guys who look the skinniest in the NBA are still strong. They got a lot of strength. So you got to develop your body. You got to have that strength. And especially for younger players, I always told them, and I was this in high school, and I know a lot, and I coached a lot of guys like this, that no matter what you do in the weight room, it's not going to show. Don't worry about it. Just the bar doesn't lie. Just keep getting stronger, keep working on developing your strength and your athletic ability. I think that's the first thing is for moving up to different levels, because of the physicality of the game and the speed of it. The second part of it's going to be, how do you obsess with the boring? What I mean by that is, being able to get in the gym to do all the footwork drills on your own, whether not just with your skill development guy, but on your own as well, working, disciplined on getting your feet right, working on your shot in different game situations, pushing yourself to do all the little things and building a routine off of this to do those little things that are going to help separate you at the next level. Because as you go up, as you go up all the different levels, the margin between players really isn't that great. It's going to be now the details that matter the most. So, because I think as you do that and you start trusting your work, because you know what you've been doing, then I think you build the confidence. You build that mental edge of it as well. I think you've got to be obsessed with the discipline. You've got to be obsessed with that routine. You've got to be obsessed with the minutia, the details that separate you, and get a lot of quality shots up, not jacking shots up, quality shots, game shots.
Yeah, I hear you on game shots. You figured it out.
Yes.
Gotcha. Shoot, I had a question. I just lost it though. The details specifically. So what are the separators? Because you've worked with pros. And so what's the difference from a guy who just has a really good high school career? What could you give me maybe some specifics of those things that you saw. This is what separated this guy from being a good college player. Maybe he was all conference or whatever, versus the guy who also was all conference but then went over on to play, or the guy that was the starter but he was never all conference in high school, but then there's the kid who has been a starter. And you know what I mean? That separation between what are some of those specific examples? Because you got a depth of experience and a variety of experiences around players.
I think the first is your footwork and your balance. You look at guys. The example I always give is Dirk Nowitzki. Dirk Nowitzki, he wasn't winning a 100-yard dash in the NBA, but he could still create his space and he could still get to where he wanted to go. And this because he had great feet. Even guys like another great example is when you watch people that were watching The Last Dance. They really had a better understanding of what made Jordan so good. It was his feet. All those guys in the NBA are good athletes. When you get to college, those are all good athletes. It's your feet, your balance, your ability to execute quickly in that balanced state. Having that feet to be able to create your space to get your shot. I think another part of it is for guys going up to different levels is start to understand what's going to get you minutes. I'll give an example of a kid I worked with. He goes to a Summit Christian. Great kid. He played EYBL for Mocan for 2 years. And even whether we're getting ready to, as a freshman, to start playing on varsity, or whether it was him going into play with the guys and the EYBL teams, what's going to get you minutes? Well, okay, don't turn the ball over. Hit your open shots, and you got to be able to guard. So we focused on, all right, making perfect passes. So we would do a drill. I call it perfect pass drill. I'd stand in the corner, or sometimes I move to the wing. I'm in my shooting position. He better hit me right here. If he throws it right there, he's chasing it. If he throws it over here, he's chasing it. Hit me right here, and then I'll have him relocate and give him a shot. You got to be able to make that perfect scoring pass. You've got to be able. He needed to be able to, so not turning it over, making a decision, guard it. So understand what's going to get you minutes. Not everyone's going to come in, and you're not going to come in on a college program from a high school and be the star right away. In most cases, you can talk about that less than 1% guy. But in reality, what's going to get you minutes? Figure out what your role is and embrace the role. Embrace that. If my coach wants me to I need to get 5 rebounds a game. I need to guard the best post player. I'm going to do that. That's going to help the team win. So I think that part of it. And then the biggest part, though, in reality, Joel, is right here. It's between the ears. It's having the belief in yourself, having the discipline, trusting your work. And then when you're playing and turning it all off. And I think this is where a lot of the trust of the work comes in. I think the biggest, and you know this, the biggest, I think one of the biggest interference of a player is the overthinking. And you can tell when a kid is thinking too much. Being able to turn that off and play and trust themselves. Don't worry. Don't agonize over every miss. Don't agonize over every mistake. One thing we always talked about is, make a new mistake. So I made one mistake. I'll move on, and then make the next play. Move on, make the next play, make the next play, make the next play.
Gotcha. So 2 questions left. Number 1, for those people that don't know you or can't tell that you're sitting down, you're 6'6", 6'7"?
6'7", yeah.
And so you can empathize with the modern big guy because when you're working, what are the things, if I'm a stretch 4, I'm that now 6'7" guy who coach put me on the wing, it's summertime. What would you tell that player? What skills do they need to develop? Or do stretch fours and that play basketball well have, if that makes sense? Because you kind of went over as a point guard, he needed to take care of the ball and deliver perfect passes.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of those things for a stretch four or that bigger guy that's trying to make that jump because he does or she wants to play collegiate basketball or move on to professional basketball? What are some of those skills? Like, that's a unique skill set and kind of a developing position, I feel like.
It is. And it'll sound like a repeating record. It comes down to your feet. Okay. Because what I mean is you've got to be able to master and I think this is a lot harder than people, I think, give it credit to. Mm-hmm. Having that, you talk about a stretch four. I'm setting the screen. All right. I got to quickly relocate on that pop, create that space, and get my feet ready, get everything ready to make that shot, to be that threat. I think you need to, really having guys work on that footwork, and which is basically the same as about a flare. Close. I mean, you could equate it to a flare screen, footwork, being able to. And so I would work on with a guy is not just, okay, first we walk through it on that footwork, but then work on getting there as fast as you can. Boom, you got to get there quick. Get there because that play is going to happen faster. Get there and get shot ready, get, whatever term you want to use on it, get your feet ready to make that next play. Boom, get there fast, get ready. I got a little foot fire. I'm showing my hands how I want to catch the ball and then to be ready to make that next play. I think working on your footwork, coming, just rolling to get available off the screen. I think another part of it is when you're working on that pick and roll play, because I love a big that can do this. And I think this is one of the best ways to counter defense then is, let's say they're coming off the slot, or high pick and roll. Coming off, hitting the roller, and then getting to a balanced position quick to make that reversal, to reverse the ball through the center. And then also working on that same balance to be able to do a little quick hook off the catch, things like that. I believe in teaching all players all the same skills, because in reality, and we've talked about this before, there are some details that are different, but I think a lot of the footwork's the same. The footwork a lot of it is the same. Mm-hmm. And so whether I'm talking to a guard to work on their post-up game, because I love posting up guards. Joel, let me ask you, how good are you at post defense?
Me? If there's an under league, I'm probably MVP status, real talk. I've been working with bigs too much. And at 5'10", I feel like I'm an undersized form like the Charles Barkley.
But you know what I mean.
But no, I get what you're saying. Yeah, it's uncomfortable. And I talked with our guys last year. Yeah. We had a couple guards that are really, they enjoy it. They enjoy that physicality, and it's uncomfortable to say the least. And then
those guys are like, well, I don't have any post moves. Well, you do box drills before practice. We do those before practice every day. Yeah, you do have post moves. It's the same footwork. It's the same. And I would have, 4s and 5s work on cuts. It's the same thing that Pete Newell would do at his big man camp. When he would, at his big man camp, the first moves, the first footwork they did wasn't inside. They worked on cutting out to the perimeter, jump stop, inside pivot, catch, and then do different footwork series. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. And you work on the base skills of your footwork. How do you catch it? How do you get yourself ready to make that next play, getting your balance, and then you'll just tweak it for the different situations that you're going to need them in. But I would also say, but if I'm working on it with the modern big man, you do some post moves, but a lot of it is how well do you do off the pick and roll and DHOs? And how do you read that? How do you make plays off that? Because in reality, that's the way the game should be going. But you need to be able to execute in those situations.
For sure. Just for the people that don't know, give a breakdown on Pete Newell, because that's a blast from the past.
A lot of my stuff, you can call me old school throwback, whatever it is. But I mean, Pete Noah, the greatest teacher in the game. I mean, I even ran his offense for a little bit at Staley, the reverse action, which is basically where a lot of the flex and swing came from. But he had just simple beliefs with your footwork, your balance. Everything he did was off the inside pivot foot because he always believed, and it's true, that, that pivot foot needs to be closest to the defender because that's how you can manipulate them to create the space you need. Scorers need space. The best way to get that space is with your feet and your body. And,
Gotcha.
And all these things come from him. I mean, that's where it comes from. And he knew what he was doing.
Mm-hmm. Now, we've talked a lot about how to go to the next level and things that separated. You're working on an interesting project. We mentioned at the beginning, working with a sports tech company as a special advisor, Binovi. I know we've got just a little bit of time. I've already kept you longer than anticipated. So maybe just quick synopsis and we can pick it up next time when you got a little time to come on. What's going on with that? Because from what we've talked about, it seems very fascinating, very interesting.
I find it fascinating because it's really, you're working with how you're using your eyes as the window to your brain. And so it's what we're working on are different ways within basketball context of how to apply that to rewire I don't want to say rewire, but to configure get your circuits to be able to read and react quicker, to be able to identify your target quicker, your depth perception from a basketball standpoint, work to improve your periphery. A lot of it really comes down to, I think some of the biggest areas is the read and react part, how to train players to, read a situation quicker and then also make the right reaction quicker. A lot of the shooting part of depth perception, identifying that target quicker. This technology really first came from using concussions, and also it was helping with ADHD kids and so forth. Yeah, it has a lot of educational applications, and in sport, it's really started to pick up more though. From a basketball standpoint, like one thing what we worked on with players is, okay, you have a board, you have the basic, it's I think about 4 or 5 different rings on it. And then just, you find the different arrays and you pick, first, all right, red dot, red dot, red dot, red dot, as quickly as you can. And then as you start to do some of the baseline, you get identify where some of your vision gaps are. Okay. So then you do drills to improve on those gaps. And then also to keep developing, again, from a basketball standpoint, read and reaction, depth perception, things like that. And then you keep adding different stresses to it. I mean, really, Michael Jordan was using a basic version of this when he was playing strobe lights, putting a goggles on with red and green lights, taking away some of your field of vision to make the right play and right reads. Steph Curry, Kawhi Leonard have been using it. And what Binovi's been doing with it is now kind of taking it to a next step with still, you have strobes, but also first starting with basic, and then you add strobe lights, or you add a balance bar, or you add ball handling to it. And it's to, again, create more stresses to develop how your brain processes it. To me, it's next level stuff because I think as it develops more, and we can get into it more later, but it really helps train the brain part of the basketball and to help you relax. I was talking with Dr. Orsillo. He's a vision therapist in Florida about this a lot. We talk a lot about this. And it's, in reality, what you're doing is you're helping teach guys to, do all the things quicker. And when you're in a game situation, then quiet the mind.
Mm-hmm.
And because you kind of rewired your brain, rewired your vision, in other words, to make those reads already play. If that makes sense.
No, this does. Man. I gotta reword myself like 2 questions, but okay. So like,
keep going.
You're saying
right.
You're doing it when you're doing this. So are you on the court? Are you in a classroom? Are you hooked up to a screen? What?
Okay, so let's say we're using the basic board.
Visualize what this kind of looks like.
All right, so how I would implement it is this way, because they're still testing these things out. How I would implement it is like this. All right, so let's say I have 3 boards, and I've got part of my pre-practice routine for our healthy guys. I would have a set of drills, and they do 5 to 10 minutes, whatever those drills are, and then you could mount them wherever you mount them, whatever, however you want to do it. But they can do that for 5 to 10 minutes. If I have someone who's injured, I'll have them do a lot more than that. So now we can keep their mind sharp and try to eliminate some of the slippage and help them implement themselves back into game conditions quicker from a mental standpoint. And then especially with younger guys, I would have them do more. I think one of the biggest areas in how this will apply is when you're really developing that next wave of players that's going to be coming in, because I think you can start getting them more mentally ready to play at that next level. Because you know this. I mean, when you get guys that go up another level, what happens to them? The game, what's going on? I mean, it's 1 million miles an hour. So, but they've got to be able to quiet their mind down, and that's really, that's what I would use it for, especially for younger players or the development players. So when they have their shot, the mental part of it isn't going to be. You can start eliminating that part, and you can just move on to more of the skill development part. I would from a practice standpoint, I would have it at pre-practice. I would implement it in pre-game, again, just before game, like before you hit the floor, whatever it is. And then in workouts, I would always into player development. I'd also end workouts with them too to help with mental fatigue. It's part of this with eye and mental fatigue. It helps kind of get your stamina up from that standpoint as well.
Gotcha. And so when you're talking about the board, are you talking about a backboard size thing, or I'm still trying to figure out physically what it looks like, or is it? Because this is very I'm trying to just figure it out.
There's why it's, I'd say maybe 2.5 feet, 3 feet by 3 feet square. Gotcha. 2.5 feet probably, maybe 2.5 feet.
And you put it on a table, or
no, you can wall mount it.
Wall mount, okay.
Yeah, and then you have it at eye level, and then the basic ones you're standing right there in front of it, and then you can add as they are developing with that. In their scores, their development improves, and you add different stresses or you make it more difficult.
Gotcha. So they may start just standing, looking at it, and then maybe you would add a ball to make it more difficult, and then you may add 2 basketballs, then you may add
and strobes, the strobe lights, things like that. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. Oh.
1 foot, 2 foot. Now, one thing you can do, and this is where I think it will really help, is teaching team defense. And when you were at Northwest Missouri State, I mean, how many guys, or high school, you would think that they've never been taught defense before, like how to react, where to go, and that's where their mind's going the most. So, like, let's say you have 3 boards over here, for instance. I've got, and then you can put them together, and now all of a sudden I'm over on the side. Now you're working on your periphery and read and react. Okay, I see it here. Oh, got it. Bolt down right here quick. And you work on the different reaction times, and you work on being able to see that and see over here too. It's the little things like that to help, again, kind of get your mind working to be able to handle that in a game situation.
Man. No, that's because it used to be you got to go out and work on your game in the park, and now it's you got to lift and work on your game. And then this sounds like now you got to lift, work on your game, and also train your eyes. Which I think there's always new things, and people are always looking for the edge. This we'll definitely have to have you come back.
Yeah, because you got to think of it this way.
Really
It's
interesting.
Because at first you think it's just your eyes, but then as you get into it more and you study it, it's the eyes are really the windows to your brain. This is about training your mental reaction times, your mental be able to read, react, and so forth.
How many sports psychologists are you familiar with, or sports psychology? Do you guys dabble in anything with that, or mental strength or mental conditioning coaches? Have you?
No, I haven't, but they may have. I can't answer that. In the work I've done with them, I haven't. I've dealt more with the vision therapist.
Cool. Because, there's a guy named – he works with Russell Wilson. He wrote a really good book called It Takes What It Takes. His name's Trevor Moawad. And, I read his book. Have you heard of this?
Yes.
I read it at the beginning of quarantine, and it was very interesting talking about and it seems like that's another side that's really starting to grow as well. But this kind of seems to be the next level of that. There's the working on that muscle of your eyes and stuff. So shoot, if anybody wants to get in touch with you, how do they do it? We'll wrap this one up, man. This has been great.
They can Coach Peter Gaskill at gmail.com. Any questions, anything they want to work with. Also, if they want to learn more about, just go to Binovi, or I think it's iCare right now. It's going to be switching over to Binovi.com, but Binovi or iCare.com.
Gotcha. And I was checking out your LinkedIn. You looks like you got some articles. I saw one from February and some other recommendations.
Yeah, we've been writing just on with the vision of scoring, just in what we talked about earlier about being able to use your eyes to whether it's identifying your target quick, or one thing actually we didn't even talk about is also with using your eyes to create your space and fake. If you see me looking on the floor, what do you think I'm going to do? I'm going to drive. Yeah, so I could use that boom to get you going backwards now to create my space, or looking at the rim, bring you in to start, just little things that you can do to create your space. And then we also had a conversation with a former player of mine he's scouting out with the Pelicans. He played at Missouri, Jared Sutton, who's doing a lot of great things right now, about how a lot of this works in player development and as a scout, what do they look for? And so just to help some players out, it's going to be a good read for you.
No, that'll be great. Thank you. And remember, subscribe, get at me or Game Shots BB on Instagram and Twitter. Questions, comments. Pete, really appreciate you taking the time. I can't wait to have you on next time. We can talk about more of this stuff because you got me thinking, man. So really appreciate you taking the time.
I appreciate you having me on. And as always, enjoy talking with you, Joel.
For sure. All right. We'll see you next time.